Affairs don't begin in the bedroom, they begin in childhood. In the part of you that decided she needed to bury her truth just to be loved. The part that's now screaming to be seen. I'm Alex Croxford, and this is the Deeper Love podcast, where we name the shame, face the guilt, and help you find your way back to yourself. So let's begin. On today's episode, I want to talk about something far deeper than affairs. Because, as you probably heard me say a million times, an affair is a symptom. And it is a symptom of something that started way before the relationship that you betrayed. Long before you met your affair partner, long before the intensity and the secrecy and the messages. And it's not something that is ever talked about in society. It's not even talked about by some of the biggest names in relationship coaching or therapy. And I really, more than anything, want this conversation to come to the forefront because it's not a conversation that's being had. So I want to start by talking about the masks that all humans wear. Specifically, of course, I will be talking about women in this, but men wear masks too. This isn't just a female problem. It's what all humans do. And the masks that we wear, we learn to wear as a way to keep us safe. And they can show up in so many different situations, not just in romantic love, but I do believe that they are most obvious or most present in romantic love. The thing is that these masks that we've started since we were really young, we started wearing these masks as children. And so many of us have actually created very successful lives from the mask. Most of us have got what many people think they want in their life. We've got a house, we've got a husband, we've got kids, got a successful career, perhaps we've got money, got a nice car. And so in many ways, the mask has served us. But when an affair happens or there is some kind of big relational rupture, it's almost like that mask that was so successful in so many ways was too tight. It had almost been starving us of our own aliveness and of the connection that we truly long for. And so it's like the person beneath the mask suddenly steps out, or bursts out, I should say, really, and has this extramarital relationship in which we feel alive and seen and understood and wanted and desired and free. And we can't understand. How did I get here? How did I make this transition from this perfect looking life on paper into completely blowing my own life up? And why did I feel like this with this other person when I haven't felt like this with my husband for years, if not ever? Most women don't cheat because they are reckless or they are home wreckers or they are immoral or bad or they want to see another man naked. They cheat because they have felt trapped by their own way of surviving in the world. And that started when we're children. And again, this goes for everyone. No one escaped this, by the way. As children, we all learnt ways to stay attached to our caregivers. There are so many unspoken rules, ways of being, beliefs that our parents unconsciously imprint onto us as children. And when we're born as these little bundles of love. And that little bundle of love, when it is born, knows that in order to get anything that it needs, food, sleep, a nappy change, it will cry. And that's how that bundle of love communicates with their caregivers in order to survive. And at that point, there aren't any restrictions or rules that the baby has adapted to. I mean, they may do if you do cry it out really early, but most of the time, especially in that real newborn phase, the baby is just free to express itself in whichever way it needs to, and the parents respond in the way that that baby needs it to be responded to. So nappy change, feeding, sleep. But slowly but surely, and this is 9 times out of 10 not conscious of the parents, but they start to condition the baby to be a certain way in order for it to fit within the particular family unit, the particular religion, societal construct, socioeconomic demographic that it is born into. And the baby knows unconsciously, but knows in its survival instinct that unless it stays attached to these caregivers, it will die. And so the baby or the toddler, as it begins to grow, begins to adapt, and let's say even maladapt, to how the parents want it to be or is asking it to be in order to stay attached. For some of us, that meant being the good one, or being quiet, or not needing much, or rescuing other people's emotions, or keeping yourself to yourself, not rocking the boat. For others, it might mean starting to become the one that achieves or performs, or it wants to be really impressive, or perhaps being in control. And so we're constantly working out how to stay safe and how to stay loved. So if I'm excellent at nursery or at school, I get a lot of love. I get told and praised and rewarded for doing really well academically. But when I have big emotions, I am sent to my room, or I am told to be quiet, or that big girls don't cry. So I need to achieve more and I need to cry less. And so these weren't flaws of that human, they are intelligent adaptations to stay alive. But here's the thing, just because you grow into an adult doesn't mean that you lose these ways of being. In fact, anything between the ages of 0 and 7, we have almost absorbed. Our brain state at that age is almost like we are in a meditative state the whole time. Our frequency of our brain waves is absorbing everything that's happening around us at all times. And so we are constantly learning and absorbing and shape-shifting into who we believe we need to be in order to be loved. And we don't outgrow these ways of being just because we are 30, 40, 50, 60. We carry them straight into adulthood and straight into our romantic relationships. And so we are unconsciously being in our romantic relationships ways in which we learnt to stay attached to our caregivers. We're still abandoning our own needs because we believe that maybe they're not going to be met. So we stay quiet, or we constantly navigate other people's emotions. We make sure that everybody else is feeling okay, and in the process completely diminish our experiences. Or we continue to be the high achiever, high performer, but don't express ourselves emotionally or are terrified of being vulnerable. And these all impact a relationship in many different ways, and often negatively. Also, the other way that we wear masks is because at some point we realized that love is also really risky. And as children, we are born and we are literally obsessed, if you like, with our mothers. Like, we have just been inside our mother's womb for the last 9 months. We are born this being, we feed off this being. For a long time we don't even know that we're separate, even though we are outside of the body. It takes us a long time to realize that we're actually separate beings. And so the love that we feel for mother is almost all consuming. But of course, our mothers are human, and our mothers are not going to be able to meet, even if they are the most incredible, conscious, perfect mother, which does not exist, by the way. They are still going to perhaps accidentally create scenarios in which that baby feels pain. And that might be because that baby is crying and the mother literally cannot pick that baby up because she has another child to be dealing with right now that has just fallen over and hurt herself. Or perhaps the baby is being, or the toddler is being wheeled along in her buggy. She drops her toy. She is not heard as she screams to the mother to be seen, and it feels this devastating experience of not being heard. And perhaps there is pain that comes with love. It might be more extreme, being told off. Perhaps if you were smacked as a child. We start to learn that with this amount of love also comes pain. It can be unreliable. It can be disappointing. So we learn that, okay, maybe I need to protect myself in some ways from this pain. So how do I need to adapt myself in order to not experience this again? So if it's that we're not getting all of our needs met because our mother is really busy with lots of other children or another job, or distracted by her mental health problem or drinking addiction, etc., etc., the child begins to learn, oh, okay, so it can't be about them because they're so wonderful, so therefore it must be about me. So what do I need to do, or how do I need to be in order to make sure that I'm going to get my needs met? Well, I should probably just be really easy. I'll be loved if I don't really have any needs. Or I'll be safe if I don't ask. Or I'll be chosen if I don't need too much. And so a child who makes those decisions begins to grow into the one that is strong, that is capable, the one that can hold everything together, the one that everyone turns to in an emergency. Because you're the one that doesn't collapse, you just cope. And from the outside, it looks like real maturity or capability, or like, wow, this. And it could be it started when you were very young. People are telling you that you're so strong-willed and you're so independent and you're so grown up, and that continues into adult life, where we must stay the one that is easy, the one that doesn't ask for anything, the one that's never too much. I have to be holding it all together for everybody else. I can't have any emotions. I need to be calm. I need to be collected. I need to be together all the time. But even though that is the experience on the outside, inside there is something else happening. And this isn't just personal as well. Like, right now, we are dealing with a generation of women, and I include myself in this, that grew up in a time of the 80s and 90s where it was ladette culture, We were raised to not rely on men. We were raised not to depend on men. You know, songs like Independent Woman by Destiny's Child and Sierra. What's that one about? Being like a man. You know, there's all these ways that we were conditioned that it's bad to be a woman, it's bad to be emotional, it's bad to be needy, it's bad to be too much. You know, this kind of idea of the over emotional woman, or, you know, when a woman is in her premenstrual period, she is over the top emotional. So, strength in our society became synonymous with doing it alone, not needing anything, not needing a man. I mean, Christ, I definitely said in my time, I don't need a man. Why do we need men? If only women ruled the world, you know, which is, I can see, is absolutely toxic conditioning. Of course we need men. Of course we can't do it all alone. But within the framework of women's empowerment, we somewhere lost the idea that it was still safe to be soft. We had to be strong like a man. And for a woman to want or to desire or to long also became very dangerous. And that came from a lot of religious programming as well. We had to be tough. We had to have hard shells. We had to be able to look after ourselves. We had to go to self-defense classes so that we could defend ourselves against any men that might attack us. You know, it was almost like we have to become so hardened so that we can be the same as men. But being the same as men isn't being equal to men. And so we lost this open-heartedness. We lost our ability to begin to feel our emotions. We lost our ability to connect to our intuition. And this isn't an attack on feminism, because there is so much about the feminist movement that absolutely had to happen. But there is something missing, and that was the part that taught us how to be strong and soft, to be independent, but also open, to be self-sufficient and be able to be in a committed partnership. All we did was learn how to survive in the world. We learned how to get into the boardroom. We learned how to survive in a capitalist society, a patriarchal society, but we never learned how to receive. We never learned how to be in our feminine power. We learned how to be hard. And so when you combine the childhood adaptation, the disappointment, and the protective ways that we developed to protect ourselves from the pain of love, plus the cultural hyper-independence that has been pushed on women, you don't get a woman who is needy. You don't get a woman who knows how to ask for what she wants. You don't get a woman who is able to share what's truly on her heart. You get a woman who is armored. She has got so many protective layers on top. She is very capable. She is very controlled. But in so many ways, she is closed off. And it might be very subtle, but it's there. And as I said, this mask, like, this is a very, very successful mask for so many women. You can get into the boardrooms. You can be earning loads of money. You even might be able to find, you know, a man who that fits with perfectly. But the issue with it is it will get to a point, which, if you're listening to this podcast, I suspect this will ring very true for you. It will get to a point where that mask is no longer serving you, and instead it's now blocking you from the intimacy that you really long for. And when I say intimacy, I don't mean sex. I mean vulnerability. I mean emotional intimacy. I mean letting somebody see inside of you, see what's going on, see how you are experiencing life, what you need, what is affecting you positively, negatively. And the affair, although it seems like it's arrived as complete and utter destruction in your life, like a nuclear bomb going off in your life, it also arrives as relief. And it arrives as relief from feeling trapped, from feeling like you're in Groundhog Day, from feeling like you have to look after everybody else, that you have to perform all the time, that you have to manage everybody, that you have to be fine. And suddenly in the affair, you feel wanted without having to even try, or you feel desired without even having to put something sexy on or ask for that. You feel seen and heard and listened to without having to force somebody to sit down and listen to you. And that is absolutely intoxicating when for years you have been shut down and armored and self-sufficient. And so this isn't about the person that came swooping into your life. It's about what you got to feel inside of yourself. That feeling of aliveness, that feeling of freedom or excitement or feeling like you're untethered. That's what this gave you. And that's not because that person that you had the affair with was your soulmate and was the one that was going to rescue you from a life of numbness. It's because what it gave you in that experience cut through the numbness. So that mask that you had been wearing or have been wearing, it wasn't the thing that made you cheat, but it made you, as in you, whoever you were beneath the mask, completely disappear. And the betrayal or that experience of the affair was honestly the first time which it touched what was underneath it, a part of yourself that you have shut down or exiled. And once you feel that, once you experience what it feels like to live underneath that mask, you cannot unknow it. And that's why going back to how it was before feels almost impossible, because the old identity that you were living in doesn't fit. And I see this time and time again with some of my clients. They're trying to go back to how the marriage was before the betrayal. It's almost like, okay, we have to go back. We have to find our way back into those roles that we were playing, that way of being. But it feels like a coat that doesn't fit anymore. And that doesn't mean that your marriage is over. It doesn't mean that your marriage is failing. It just means that you now have awareness of something that you weren't aware of anymore. And one of the things that I see again with so many women that come into my space, that they think that healing is punishing themselves. I need to be better. I must be a better person. I am wrong. I am bad. I am broken. I need to be better. And it's not about putting the hard shell back on and pretending like you don't care. It's actually the opposite. It's actually starting to learn how to stay open. It's about learning how to ask for what you need or say what you want, and not letting the other person's emotional experience stop you from doing that. And I mean this with kindness. I don't mean that we now just go crashing into our marriages with, well, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want. like, even though I cheated, but if you don't do this, then I'm going to leave you. I don't mean that, just to be clear. I'm sure you know me enough by now to know that's not what I mean. But I mean, for example, if we feel like we are trapped in our marriage, like it feels like we're suffocating and we're not receiving what we really want, and we want to have more independence, it feels like we're very codependent, very enmeshed, we're doing everything together all the time, then if the only reason that that is happening is because you cannot deal with the uncomfortable feeling of asking your husband if you can take some time on your own with the girls or some time on your own to go to the shops, then that experience of continuously abandoning what you want to keep somebody else feeling fine is going to eventually completely wear you down again. It's going to take you back to that point of feeling like you're flatlining in your life. And I'm not saying that you're going to cheat again, but you're not going to want to live like this for the rest of your life. And so this is where we have to start actually making shifts. We have to learn how to stay open without abandoning ourselves, without needing to armor up. And this is normally why it's really hard for women in the aftermath of their affair to do this alone. Because the mask that you built, the mask that you've been living from, is a blind spot. You can't see your own mask. You can't see your own ways of being, because it's literally the place from which you've been coming since you were between 0 and 7. And so this is why we need spaces where we can see our patterns, where we can begin to see and become more conscious of our ways of being in the world, how it shows up in relationships, how our armor shows up in relationships, how our self-abandonment shows up in relationships. And more than just being able to see it, it's being able to heal those parts. It's being able to soften the mask so that you can begin to approach your relationship differently. And this is why the sanctuary exists. Because we aren't trying to fix anyone. We're not trying to rush anyone to make any big decisions or turn their pain into being more productive. It's none of that. The sanctuary is a place to stand whilst things start to rearrange. So where you get to practice being open, being vulnerable, without having to do it in your partnership, which can sometimes feel really hard if you have never done that for 20 or 30 years. And in that space, you don't have to be strong. You don't have to be healed. You don't have to know what you want yet. It's a space where you get to be honest and human, and in a transitionary period of not knowing and at the same time knowing that all you want to do is not be living in this pain anymore. So the mask that you wore, it protected you. For sure it protected you. But it also cost you something. And so it's not about taking the mask off or ripping the mask off. It's about beginning to loosen it gently so more of you can breathe. Thank you for listening to the Deeper Love podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find all the ways to work with me in the show notes. Until next time.